Hello everybody and welcome back. I know it's been a couple of weeks since the last video. Excuse me, way to start off. Things just been kind of busy with the holidays and everything, getting back into the swing of work after a little bit of vacation. But things have been moving along pretty quick. So, got a few minutes here, so we'll sit down and smash out another video. First things first, Heresy is not dead, despite what you may have heard. Our most recent episode just recorded about a week ago. It was Spacemen with Guns. We addressed that. Great roundtable discussion with Chris Pretty from TFL, Jake Bussey from Covenant of Fire, Derek Sullivan from RFI, as well as David Sampson from Black Label Painting. It was a great discussion. You can see that video. We actually did it on Google Hangouts, so you can see that on our YouTube page if you want. It's about an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes. And then it's also the latest episode of the podcast. So definitely check that out. I was also on TFL last Wednesday night, which was a lot of fun. Got to hang out with those guys, so that was a really good time. So speaking of podcast stuff, real quick, just got out of the way. Thanks again to Jake Bussey. Got a new microphone, some headphones, and cables. And thanks to Chris Pretty, we got a nice little sound mixer. So that should definitely give us some better sound quality for the podcast. I need to get a few cables yet, but I can't wait to try this thing out. I think it's going to be awesome. So, hobby progress in the last couple of weeks. Don't remember if I showed it or not, but I finished the Apothecary. So that's all done and taken care of. I think I did mention that on the last episode. But working away on the bits for my Damocles Commander Rhino. So there's that inside panel. So it's just primed. All the parts are cleaned up. So yeah, so I need to go in and do my sort of pre-highlight for all of that. You can see the interior parts done, as well as the rear hatch and the floor plate. Those are done with gunmetal, and they've got a coat of chipping fluid on them. So I'm going to go ahead and paint those over and then start doing some chipping on it. Should look really cool. So that's the Damocles. The jet bikes have not gotten too far along. I mean, I've got them assembled. So they are pinned and glued together. There's still some details and stuff to touch up. I kind of forget about these, even though they're sitting right in the middle of my work area. So I don't always remember to get to those. But I will get to those. I still need to do the basis for them. And then just little bits and pieces of the cestus. Like here's the dive flaps. Like I've done the, you can see there's a little bit of a highlight there. I'm going to actually pose those open. I think it's going to look really cool. So just did a highlight on those today, as well as started working on the new base for the cestus. The actual plastic base will go under here. It's not glued on yet. So just kind of mocked up a base out of some insulation foam. We'll have to scuff it up and put some details and stuff on it. Got a cutout in the bottom. We're actually going to have the battery in here, and this is removable in case I need to get in there and replace it if the battery should die. I don't think I'll be using it that much. Just like some little plastic card over here, like remnants of walls of a ruined building, and this is also a hole for the switch that's going to be in there. So still need to do a little bit of work on this side, which is going to be pretty cool. But so you can see I've got two holes here in the base. That one I drilled. This one was actually when I tried to tear the old flight stand off. Kind of just didn't want to give it up. So yeah. But the thing that is actually going to allow me, is going to be kind of nice, is because some of these holes, I think if I do it the other way, one of these holes lines up pretty well with the bottom of the tubing, which means I can put the tube all the way down to the bottom. So it's going to give it a little bit more structure and rigidity to it. But the battery cable, the battery box is going to be right about here, so I can actually run the wires through this hole, glue them along here, and then run it right back up here, which is going to be kind of nice. Again, it's going to allow me to really kind of keep some of that structural stability. So again, wiring is going to run up through here to the female end of the 2-pin connector that's coming out of the bottom of the cestus, so I can plug it in and set it on top here. It actually holds fairly well. I'll give you guys a demonstration of that here in a minute. But in the meantime, I've just been working on the wings. One thing I did do, actually removed that skull and crossbones that's on these missile pods. I hate that. I think it's just so stupid, and I hate trying to paint it. So I got rid of those. But You see moving assembly along on the cestus pretty well. Just note, these booms are not even with each other. They look like crap, but it's the best I could do. The other thing that kind of bothers me is you can tell the doors aren't. This one is exactly how it should be. It's proper. It lines up perfectly. Magnets in there hold it in place just perfectly. This one, not so much. I actually had to redo the holes in the side of this a couple of times because it just wouldn't line up. The door was cockeyed. It's still kind of cockeyed, but it's slightly better, and I can move it a little bit. I've got 2 magnets in here, but they don't line up enough to keep this door shut. So there's this little piece of metal here to hold it, to kind of give the magnets in here something to grip onto. It still doesn't do a very good job. It doesn't hold it in place very well. But I've got an idea. I might just take some magnets and stick them in about here, just right inside the lip of this door, because that's where it wants them to be, the magnets in the door. So we'll try and get that sorted out and figured out here in a little while. But as you can see, the rest of it's coming along pretty well. Got the engine housings on. Fairly large gaps. You can see right there, there's a little piece of plastic card shoved in there because the gaps were just huge. So I've got little bits and pieces of plastic card stuck all along here. Some of the gaps are just filled with super glue, but that's all going to get pinned in, or not pinned in, but green stuffed over so I can fill those gaps, fill those up a little bit better. This side is pretty much done. You can see there's a fair amount of green stuff in there. It was interesting, to say the least. Also shaved off and filed down all the Aquillas on the side. Technically, since I'm doing like a immediate post-calf sort of theme, they wouldn't have started using a double-headed eagle yet. Also got rid of the one on the front. That being said, I've also left the Aquillas on my Jack bikes. It'd look a little weird without them, so left those on. But I didn't really want them on the Cestus, so I decided to file them off, and I'm allowed to do that. It's my model. Things don't quite line up all that well. You can see there's some gaps there and there, and it is what it is. This particular piece here, there was enough of a lip that I managed to get. I had to put in a piece of, it's actually plastic I-beam to even that out. I'll green stuff over the groove in here, file that, sand it down. What I'm also doing to add some structural integrity to the wings, you can see I've got these little pieces of brass tubing to act as pins in the wing mounts. I'm also going to put in a smaller piece of brass rod as well, or yeah, brass wire basically. So I've drilled out a corresponding hole there. So it just kind of mounts in like that, and it'll allow me just a little bit better hold. The only problem is I want to paint the wings separately. It'd just be a lot easier, I think. So what I'm gonna have to do is basically get these things, shim these up as I need to, because there's gaps like where this little bit meets. You shim those up as best as I can so that excuse me, so that it's already ready by the time I start painting. So that'll go on like there. The other one's the exact same. Might even just put some green stuff in the holes to try and help hold those in place as well. But if I can remember how these fit on, it's a bit of a challenge. Yeah, so you can see we'll have, the wings will be fairly stable to the body. So we got that going for us. The big problem that I've run into is going to be this back. Just does not line up at all with the engine plate. You can see there's enormous gaps here and here, a little bit of a gap here. So what I'm probably going to, and you can, it also sticks out fairly pronounced over the bottom, and then I've got a large gap in here. So a couple of things to address this. I'm basically going to sand off the very bottom of this. Set this aside for a moment. What I'm going to do, see how well you guys can actually see this. There's this little bit of it just keeps getting washed out here. Let's try and cover that. But there's a little bit of a lip right here. I'm going to try and sand that off entirely to try and even it out. Then I'm just going to have to try and plastic hard and putty joint and try and fill it in as best I can. Now the other issue, those larger gaps that I mentioned before, and the idea that I had was actually proposed by, I think it's Sturgis 1988 on Instagram. Fill that in with just like wires and pipes and stuff, and it'll look like it's supposed to be there. So I think I'm going to give that a try. We'll see what we get. Otherwise, it's more plastic hardened putty. You know, there's not a whole lot that can really be done. So that's what we're going to try. So I'll show you guys the mounting of the base. I don't want to get too sketchy with it, but I mean it mounts on there pretty well. It's pretty secure. It's pretty good fit. So I think we'll be in pretty good shape with that. So one other thing, I don't have it with me. I'd actually recorded a video, I think, on Christmas Eve and just never got around to publishing it. For Christmas, I did actually get a copy of the Forge World Masterclass Volume 1, which is an awesome book. If you guys get an opportunity to pick that up, definitely do it. It'll give you some great modeling tips. So that's really about all I can think of for right now, other than just Heresy is not dead. It's probably better than ever. Rule books are coming out. I've got mine is in the mail right now, so hopefully I'll be getting that soon. I'm hoping tomorrow, but we'll see. Another thing, if you're into Heresy, this year is going to be big for Heresy. We're going to make it big. I know all of us podcast hosts have kind of discussed it, and it's going to be a great year because it's its own game now. It's now Horus Heresy 1.0. So what I'm going to be trying to do is I'm going to be trying to get involved in my community a lot more. Not necessarily with just Heresy, but I'm going to be pushing Heresy a lot. Thinking about trying to come up with like a monthly hobby workshop that's kind of driven by the community, where we pick a theme each month, like airbrushing, basing, decals, and then we all kind of get together and just kind of workshop it. So if you're having trouble with decals or something, come in, you know, you can learn from people how they do it, and not necessarily have it like be one person leading the event, but just kind of maybe have one person facilitating it, but have everyone kind of get together and share how they do it, and then people can learn how other people do it and decide which way they like themselves. One other thing, new year, new allied detachment. I'm not doing new year, new army, so I do have some mechanical models now. I've got Thalax and one Domitar to go with this 40k Magos that I've had for several months and just don't even have completely primed yet. So that's going to be pretty cool, and also might be having some militia models, some really cool sort of Revolutionary War Continental Army miniatures from Anvil Industries that look too good to pass up, so that may or may not have been ordered earlier today, so we'll see where that goes. So again, I think that's about it. So yeah, thanks you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.